Good day, I'm Carrie-Ann Smith and this is your GIS News for Friday, July 22. Prime Minister Andrew Holness says this week's discussion with the International Monetary Fund was positive and fruitful. The Prime Minister hosted a delegation from the International Monetary Fund on Wednesday. He was joined by Finance Minister Audley Shaw, Bank of Jamaica Governor Brian Winter, and other members of the economic team. The IMF delegation was headed by Deputy Director of the Western Hemisphere Department, Nigel Chalk, and Mission Chief for Jamaica, Uma Ramakrishnan. They were in the island to discuss Jamaica's possible re-engagement with the IMF at the end of the current agreement. Prime Minister Holness says the parties agreed that the government's focus on growth and job creation, poverty reduction, and national security should be reflected in and essential to any future program with the IMF. It was also agreed that macroeconomic discipline must be maintained. Earlier in the week, Minister Shaw outlined government's rationale for seeking to extend its engagement with the multilateral organization.
We believe that it is good, it is tidy, it is transparent, that we should continue to have a relationship, a monitoring relationship with the IMF, and we think that it is good all around for Jamaica's program.
The governments of Jamaica and Trinidad and Tobago have agreed to prioritize the bilateral framework agreement that's currently under consideration as they work toward enhanced dialogue and cooperation. The decision follows a 4-day working visit to Jamaica by Trinidad and Tobago's Prime Minister, Dr. Keith Rowley. He left the island yesterday afternoon. In a press briefing with Prime Minister Andrew Holness earlier in the day, the two leaders signed a joint communique detailing the result of their bilateral discussions during the visit. In what the two said were frank and open discussions, an agreement was reached for Jamaica and Trinidad to work towards increasing investment flows between the two countries and the resolution of trade issues.
Prime Minister Rowley and I acknowledged the need for improvements in our trade relations, including the removal of impediments to free trade and the free movement of goods and services between both our countries.
Initiatives will also be explored to strengthen cooperation in the areas of energy, security, tourism, air and sea transportation, and technical and cultural exchanges. The vexing issue of Jamaican nationals being denied entry into Trinidad and their treatment at the hands of immigration officials was also discussed.
And all that's left for me to do is to formally and publicly, on behalf of the people of Trinidad and Tobago and the government which I head, to extend an invitation to the Prime Minister of Jamaica and his delegation to join us in Trinidad and Tobago at the earliest opportunity so we can continue this dialogue.
The future of CARICOM was also central to the bilateral talks, and both Trinidad and Jamaica have agreed that the regional body must be made better able to maximize its benefits to all member states and to respond to external challenges. At another assignment yesterday, Prime Minister Andrew Holness reiterated his call for personal responsibility in the safe use of the nation's roads.
Drive with care. Drive with consideration for fellow road users. Jamaica needs you, your contribution, and your productivity. Your life is in your hands on the roads.
Prime Minister Holness was speaking at the launch of Guardian Group's $60 million mobile medical unit. He pointed out that road crashes have had a devastating effect on the health sector, with preliminary estimates from one study showing that motor vehicle crashes cost over $8 billion in healthcare services. Government will be stepping up efforts to address issues related to teenage pregnancy. Minister of State for Education, Youth and Information, Floyd Green, says this will be done through the Early Stimulation Program.
We're going to be working with the Ministry of Health and the Ministry of Labour and Social Security to send community aides in to work with our teenage mothers and fathers to ensure that they have some of the tools needed to stimulate their children in the early stages of life. We have found that children which are stimulated earlier do much better.
He says the national policy to reintegrate teenage mothers into the formal school system is important to national development goals.
Every teenage girl has the right to quality education and training that will allow them to successfully transition into adulthood, irrespective of life's fortune or misfortune. It is an inalienable right worthy of every investment.
Minister Green was speaking at the recent observation of World Population Day in St. Thomas. It was held under the theme, Investing in Teenage Girls, Engaging Men and Boys. And finally, this year's Denby Agricultural and Industrial Show is expected to attract over 100,000 patrons. President of the Jamaica Agricultural Society, JAS, Norman Grant, made the projection at a recent JIS think tank. He said 250 exhibitors and sponsors would be showcasing their products and agriculture produce at the 64th staging of the show. Earnings are expected to increase by 15%.
We are estimating this year that the show will generate somewhere in the region of $75 million, up 15% over last year. We estimated that the impact of Denby to the commercial impact to Clarendon and Jamaica is approximately $1 billion. So Denby is huge economic activities in the agricultural sector and for the general economy.
The three-day Denby Agricultural Show will be held from July 30 to August 1. Admission for children will be $400 on all 3 days, while adults will pay $900 and $1,000 over the 3 days. And that's it for JIS News Today. I'm Carrie Ann Smith. Thanks for watching.